Hey guys, welcome back to the second video in the series of building the DZ logo animation. This time I'm going to be showing you how to create the dynamics chain that you saw in the animation where the magnet came down and picked up the piece of sheet metal. So with that, let's get started. Let's just go ahead and start creating a chain link. For this, we're going to use a rectangle spline. And we're going to change the width to 200 and the height we can leave at 400 centimeters. And then we're going to turn on rounding and we're going to change the radius to 100. Okay, and then we're going to grab the inside spline. And the reason I use inside instead of circle is that you have more control over the geometry, the amount of detail in each chain link. So grab that, and we're going to change the radius down to about 25. Okay, and then we're going to grab sweep NURB and take the inside in the rectangle and put it under the sweep NURB, and there we have it, our first link. And I'm going to up the detail of this. We're going to change the amount of sides on the inside to 8, and then gives it a little more smoother look to it. And if we turn on Rod shading lines, you'll notice that it's got a lot more detail on the top and bottom. We can probably turn that down a tad and do that. Just go into the rectangle, and you'll see under intermediate points, if you change this around just for like uniform, it kind of makes it, distributes the subdivision throughout the whole link. Actually, we're going to leave it on adaptive, and if you up the angle, turn it up, you'll notice that there's a less subdivision. So we're going to change that to 17. Looks good to me. Okay. And next thing we're going to do, we're going to change the pivot point of each link to the top. So if we turn off the sweep NURB, so you can just see the rectangle spline, we want the axis to be here at the top center. So turn on our axis manipulation tool, turn on snapping, and then we're going to rip it off, tear it off the menu, enable snapping, turn on 3D, turn off construction, grid line, turn on point, and then just go ahead and pull, whoops, right, okay, oh, I'm sorry, it needs to be, sweep NURBS needs to be selected, so go ahead and grab that and pull it up. Okay, close that out, turn this off, and we can turn sweep NURBS back on. Okay, and then we can disable the lines, go back to Rod shading. So there we have it, our first link. Okay, so let's go ahead and clone these. To create a series of links, it's going to be under MoGraph and Cloner. And just take the sweep NURB and put it under the cloner. And we start with 3. We're going to go ahead and change that to 8. And then the p.y, we want to change that down to a negative value. And you'll see why here later. Negative 330 worked pretty good for me. And make sure the mode is set to linear. And to rotate every other link, you just need to change the r.h to 90 degrees. And every other link will be positioned the right way. So there we have it. Okay. The first way I'm gonna show you is to create a dynamics chain is one that takes a little more processing power. This one didn't quite work for me as well. The links were falling apart, and it was just a little slower on my machine. But so I'm going to show you how to do this first, and then we'll change it to, I'll show you how to do it as I did in my video. So just right click on SweepNURB and add a rigid body tag under the simulation tags. Okay, and since each mesh has a hollowed out center, we need to tell Cinema 4D that it's a moving mesh, so change the shape to moving mesh. Okay, and that's very important. So okay, and then we need a way to hold this chain up, because right now if you hit play it would just fall right on out of the screen. So we're just going to use torus. Change the orientation to -X. Just put it up here. Segments, we'll just change that to 12, and pipe segments to 12 is fine. And I'm just going to rename this to handle, and go ahead and add rigid body tag to this as well. And for shape, we're going to change this to static mesh, because it's not going to move. We'll animate the position of it, but it's not going to move dynamically with the other links. So okay, so right now we could go ahead and hit play, and you'll see what happens here. First, I'm going to up the amount of frames from 90 to 900. Drag this out. Okay, so hit play. I apologize for my machine. It's not the fastest thing in the world. And there we have it. There's our first problem. I didn't really move it that much, and it broke apart. One thing you can do, let me just rewind and then undo what I moved here. If you go into Edit and then Project Settings, and if you click Dynamics tab and then the Expert tab, if you change the steps per frame from say 5 to 20, it's going to up the amount of processing power it takes to kind of figure out how the dynamics are moving. So it's going to run a little slower, but the links are going to stay connected a lot better. I moved it kind of quick, but it's still, you'll notice that it stays connected. Well, take my word for it, it does work better, but my machine is just not very good, so I apologize. But it does work, it does help. I'm going to undo this, and now I'm going to show you the way I went about it for my animation that didn't give me hardly any problems at all. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to 5. And first thing we need to do is make each one of these its own separate object. So if you click on Cloner, you right click, go to current state to object, it creates a null, and each link will be under its own null, or under its own object. So we can go ahead and just get rid of the whole cloner group. And this is the reason I did a negative value when I did the cloner, because when I did the negative 330 under p.y, if you start with 0, it starts with the top link and goes down the list. If we did a positive value, clicking on number 7 would have been the top link in our chain, and it's just easier. But we can actually go ahead and get rid of the null, so just take it out and delete cloner. And we're going to rename each one of these objects just to their numbers. It's just easier. You'll see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. And these already have a dynamics tag attached to them, because when I did the current state to object under the cloner, it carried that information down into each one of these. And they all have moving mesh, which is good. That's what we want. So with that, let's go ahead and add in our connector, which will connect each one of these together. So go under simulate dynamics connector. Okay, and then we're just going to move this in between handle and 0. And for the first one, we're just going to rename it handle to 0. You don't need to name it that. It just makes it easier to understand. And then under the type of connector, we're going to change that to ball and socket. And we're going to turn off collision, ignore collisions. And for object A, it's going to be handle. And object B, you guessed it, 0. So, okay. And the thing with connectors, they need to be in the right position for them to work correctly. So you'll notice on the ball and socket connector, it's got like a yellow top and a blue bottom. Just move this down so that it's right above the first object. So handle, we want it right above it. So right here, we just want a little bit of yellow showing. So that would be good right there. And I apologize, this is very tedious, but I promise you it works great when it's all set up properly. So we're going to go ahead and copy this down the line. This is really tedious. 4 and 5, 5 and 6, 6 and 7. And rename each of these 0 to 1, 1, oops, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. This just makes it easier later on. 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. Okay, and then click on each one and drag in the objects where they need to be. So 0 is object A, and 1 object B, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. I apologize, this is really boring here. 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. Okay, there we have it. Now we have to line them all up in their proper locations. So we already did the first one. I'm just going to quickly put them into place, and then I'll go in and tweak them a little bit later. So move them down in between each link. Okay, so 0 to 1, zoom in. Make sure the yellow part of the connector is just sticking above the top link. So this one, I want to move that down slightly. 2 to 3, move it down a little bit. 3 to 4, move it up. 4 to 5. Move it down slightly. 5 to 6. And 6 to 7. Alright. There we have it. Now if we go ahead and hit play, it should work just fine. Shouldn't have any issues with the chain breaking apart or anything like that. Sometimes it can get tangled up a little bit, but and I apologize, this is just not a very good computer to test this on, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and undo, change that. Oops. So, but it really does work a lot better than how it was before. You won't have any links breaking apart. So this worked great for me, and the good thing about this is I can attach another Dynamics object to the bottom. Oh, there it goes. It's degrading my viewport here because my computer is so slow. But I can go ahead and attach another Dynamics object to the bottom and use that to pick up another object. Like in my scene, I picked up the piece of metal. Let's see here. If we were to attach, say we were making a wrecking ball, go into the object. Let's create a. It's getting late. Okay, sphere. And let's just go ahead and change this size here. That looks good. Move it down. And change this name to ball. Move it to the bottom. And we also need to assign this Dynamics a rigid body tag. So I'm just going to copy it from number 7, put it here. And the ball needs to be a moving mesh as well. So it's already set to that. And we need to create another connector from 7 to ball. So just take 6 to 7 and copy it down. And then just name it 7 to ball. And then make sure you drag in your objects. 7 to ball. And then for this, just move the connector so it's just above, so it just sits like that. Okay. And then when I was doing my tests here, you want to up the mass of the ball. So if we click on the rigid body tag of the ball, we can go to the mass tab, and instead of using world density, we're going to use a custom mass and change that to about 400. And this varies depending on how big your objects are in the scene. So with this, 400 should work okay. And on this machine, it's probably not going to run the best, but let's just see what happens. Hit play. There we have it. It kind of looks like it has a little bit of weight to it in the bottom, but yeah, you might need to up the mass of the ball or change the gravity in your scene, and it should work a little better, but it'll definitely stay attached. Like, I didn't have any problems when I did my magnet in the original animation. So that's that. And you could throw in a floor here and go ahead and just add a rigid body and change the collision type to a static mesh. What's going on here? Okay, I lied. I needed to hit pause first, but add in a floor, put it on here in the bottom. Okay, and add in a static mesh rigid body. Okay, and then just hit play. And you can pull it down, and yeah, it definitely needs some more weight. It's just floating there. But yep, it should lands on there just fine. So I really apologize for how slow my computer is, but you get the idea, I think. So hopefully this helps you guys out. That's all I wanted to show you today for the chain. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me or use the comments, and I'll be sure to reply as soon as I can. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.